I think it's fairly safe to say that all Nintendo fans at this point in time are on very high alert for the official announcement of a Nintendo Direct from Nintendo, to the point where they can't even take to social media to promote anything else without all of the comments reading, "Where's the Nintendo Direct? Okay, great. We know Mario vs. Donkey Kong's coming out, but when's the next Direct?" It's literally about all any Nintendo fan cares about right now. And if you were somebody keeping up with the last round of rumors and news cycles suggesting that it would be happening in the week that we are in, it's now looking like obviously that is not the case. And as I mentioned in my video reporting on those rumors, you really don't need rumors or leakers to know that a February Direct is going to happen. You can just look at history and see that we have a clear-cut trend with it happening early in February. As you can see, this following post from Stealth, which outlines 2019 was February 13th, 2021 was February 17th, 2022 was February 9th, and 2023 was February 8th. So the first couple weeks are absolutely game and on the table. The one asterisk to this conversation that many fans are maybe worrying about not seeing a traditional Nintendo Direct this year has to do with all of the reports that Nintendo is gearing up to launch new hardware this year. And yes, I will have a separate video on Shintaro Furukawa's recent comments at Nintendo's investors meeting and where they're really at within their life cycle of the Switch, because it's being wildly misinterpreted online. But today's topic is Nintendo Direct, and if you just want the likelihood scale of whether or not we'll see this thing happen in February, it is extremely likely. Just because Nintendo is gearing up for new hardware, it does not mean that they are going to totally drop the ball on all of the massively successful software that we're seeing them continue to sell on the current 139 million unit strong Switch lifecycle. And we now have two different trusted sources that are reporting the exact date that this event should indeed take place, and it will be next week. So we're going to unpack all of that. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, the sources in question today that we will be discussing are Necro Felipe from Universo Nintendo, who has leaked numerous different things over the course of time accurately, and Nate the Hate, who you guys are all probably very familiar with. And obviously no leaker other than Pioro at this point in time has a spotless track record, but both of these individuals have been very reliable when it comes to dates and unannounced inner workings of Nintendo. And my only reservations with the previous rumors we were covering for it happening this week was the fact that sources like Nate the Hate were saying that they heard of a Direct but no official date. Pioro was saying he hasn't heard of any official date, and it sounded more and more like maybe it wasn't going to be the week that we're in. And clearly, if you're watching this video now, you know that that is indeed the case. So we have to shift our sights to what is the actual date. And you can first see this post over on Universo Nintendo, where Necro Felipe says, sources, new Nintendo Direct presentation should happen next week. The company plans to release its news for the first half of the year soon. Traditionally maintaining regularity of presentations in February, Nintendo should soon hold another digital event to announce its next news focused on the first half of 2024, according to information obtained by Nintendo Universe from a source who chose to remain anonymous. The company is expected to hold its traditional presentation of news through a Nintendo Direct next week on February 15th. The format of this presentation, if mini or general, has not been presented to us, as well as its definitive date so far, but again, we are waiting for news for some first-party titles from the Kyoto company. Now, you might notice some conflicting wording where he says that the official date hasn't been revealed to him, but then above that says that February 15th is the date, and he actually went back and updated the article to include February 15th. At first it said the week of February 15th, or the 12th through the 15th specifically. Then he zeroed in on that 15th date, and that is sounding more and more like it is the exact day, which is a Thursday. And you might have some pause with that and say, hang on, traditionally Nintendo Directs normally on February happen on Wednesdays. Well, Wednesday's Valentine's Day this year. I don't know that Nintendo really cares about that at all, other than they might be aware that, you know, some people have plans in the afternoon and evening and things, so maybe they don't want to air it as a later Direct as they sometimes do for their February one. And you might also have pause with that date because Mario vs. Donkey Kong is coming out legitimately the next day. But we've seen Nintendo have planned launch days of major games right around the corner and still hold a Direct presentation without any kind of problems before, and I believe that's what we're going to be looking at here. And if you did need further proof, Nate the Hate also weighing in, zeroing in on this exact date, saying that that is what he is hearing, where he's responding to a fan question around this article, and he says, next week is the timing I've heard, yes. Now, there's also a third source from Reset Era that claims to be somebody who localizes games that also knows that 15th is indeed the date, and I believe he was spotted saying this ahead of Necrofelipe, and then Nate the Hate, which Nate the Hate is saying he's heard next week's timing. I guess not exactly February 15th as the date, but next week is indeed the planned timeline for this presentation now. And like I said, even if you don't want to pay any attention to any of these quote-unquote inside reports or inside information, leakers, whatnot, well, you just have history on your side, and the beginning of February is the most likely timeline for this to take place. If we go into late February and we don't see Nintendo hold some kind of traditional direct presentation for some reason, I would be very surprised to see that. I mean, you just look at the industry trend. Sony has gone with their State of Play. Microsoft went with their Developer Direct, and we have more major Microsoft news coming up next week from Phil Spencer talking about their future business strategy for Xbox, which many are expecting for Xbox to more or less announce their intentions to go third party for the most part with their major releases, and Hi-Fi Rush might indeed be revealed at the upcoming February presentation. I don't think that Nintendo shifted any dates around Microsoft. I've seen that opinion online. Nintendo does their own thing. They stay in their own lane. This has likely always been the plan, but there were some rumblings about it happening this week with sources like Special Nick chiming in, Bill Kuhn teasing something that seemed like the timing would have to align with it being this week, but we now know to shift our focus to next week, and then the question becomes, is this going to be a traditional mainline direct presentation, or could this be some kind of direct mini, or the worst case scenario, a direct partner showcase where there's literally nothing first party Nintendo? I am not betting on anything other than a traditional direct. There is the slightest chance that since Nintendo is potentially around the corner from some kind of new hardware presentation, that it is a mini and we see less first party games show up at this event. That's absolutely on the table, but I do think that Nintendo, with their history, even as far into the Switch's life cycle as we are, they continue to pump out first party support without fail, whether they lean on some ports or remasters or not to do that. And I think you could say they definitely do. They still just pump out games, and I am confident that they have a number of unannounced titles that they're ready to at least show off in some way, shape, or form, even outside of all of their bigger plans for next generation console hardware. The one thing to keep in mind though is that none of these sources are claiming to know the exact format presentation of this direct, so if you do want to go into this thing this next week with super low expectations, maybe expect a mini showcase or even a partner showcase, which I don't think Nintendo's in that point where they need to go partner showcase, but it is possible if they're holding back all the big releases for something like a big hardware reveal event that they also want to drop a 3D Mario, a new Donkey Kong game, and some of the heavy hitter titles. But you think about games like Metroid Prime 2, Echoes Remastered, and 3 Corruption potentially shadow dropping together at the same time, if the rumors are true that maybe they're not getting quite the same remaster treatment that Prime 1 did, or maybe they do get the full on treatment and we just see Prime 2 Echoes shadow drop at the event. That's on the table, and I would say very likely. Maybe we hear some kind of update for Metroid Prime 4 and its development, and I do think that we could potentially be talking about ports and remasters that have been long rumored, such as Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess. I'm not setting my hopes and dreams on those games anymore. They'll happen when they happen, but they are perfect titles that are in Nintendo's wheelhouse to continue to get Zelda fans to come out and buy new games. And we know, as history suggests and some insiders have suggested, that Nintendo's plan towards the end of any ramp down period in a current console generation is to support it with a lot of ports and remasters, so their main development teams can focus on creating content for the new console. We need to find out release dates for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion HD. Both of these games are absolutely going to show up and get their release dates at the February presentation. I think that is a foregone conclusion and an entirely safe bet. So Nintendo's going to communicate with their fan base. It's just a matter of sitting on the sidelines and waiting to see when they choose to officially reveal it. I will be on high alert all next week, early morning every day, to see when they actually take to social media to confirm this and to post that it will be happening. We oftentimes see it just 24 or 48 hours notice before it goes live, with the majority of the time just being 24 hours. So really watch out on Valentine's Day on February 14th in the morning. We may indeed be getting the announcement that 15th is the date, and we will then know. At least we don't have to wait much longer to find out the confirmation from Nintendo. And that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on whether or not next week is the week for the February Direct and what games you hope we see featured there. Do you think it might be something like a full-scale traditional Nintendo Direct presentation, kind of like what I am thinking, or do you think it's more likely that Nintendo may indeed opt for a Direct Mini, or even potentially just a partner showcase, as they might be gearing up bigger things for a hardware reveal event? But Regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.